Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. Another beautiful day in Key West paradise. Hope you all had a lovely Valentine's Day. I can tell you who didn't, and that's European leaders. J.D. Vance did not give them the nicest Valentine's Day gift for sure yesterday. It was his first major speech as vice president on the international stage. He spoke at the Munich security conference. Oh, by the way, stick with me to the end of this video because I have got a view for you that's going to blow you away. The southernmost part of the United States. Key West is really neat. It's an island city. As you can see, there's a lot of traffic and so forth, but it's absolutely beautiful. If you have a chance to come down here, you're gonna love it. This is my second time here. I just absolutely love it. But anyway, so J.D. Vance gave a speech at the Munich Security Council, and all the leaders apparently expected a speech that would be centered on the threat of Russia and China. And J.D. Vance basically he could have titled the speech "The Enemy from Within Europe," or Europe's Enemy from Within, because basically it was a speech that started with a framing sentence. I am not, when it comes to Europe's security, I'm not so concerned about Russia and China. My concern is with the European elite. It's the threat from within. And he gave a number of examples of what he was talking about. He talked about how, no one in Europe, not a single person in Europe voted for these open borders. And he cited the car attack that happened in Munich the other day that resulted in all these dozens and dozens of injuries. And it turns out the fellow was a Muslim radical. He talked about the arrests of protesters in front of abortion clinics in Britain who were arrested simply for praying silently. He brought up the example of Adam Smith Connor. How's that for an ironic name? Adam Smith Connor. He was silently praying about 50 or so meters outside of an abortion clinic, and British police arrested him because of some new law that they just passed. And he excoriated these European leaders for cheerleading a Romanian court for canceling their presidential elections. Calin Georgescu, we've been talking about that. He's a more or less a populist, sort of pro-Russian, orthodox presidential candidate. He was poised to win in the runoff. He just came from nowhere, totally surprised our European elites. And so what did they do? They canceled the elections. They literally just canceled the presidential elections in Romania. So J.D. Vance rightly excoriated these European elites for being authoritarian totalitarians. Now, what he was getting at, what he was really criticizing, is something that's technically known as neo-medievalism. This is something that scholars write about in terms of how Europe's politics have changed since the Amsterdam Treaty that was signed back in 1999. The Amsterdam Treaty basically transferred local and national power to centralize European institutions like the European Parliament or the European Court of Justice. And so what's happened is a tremendous amount of sovereignty has been surrendered by European nations after the signing of this treaty back in 1999. Now, we saw that sort of come to a head with Viktor Orban of Hungary, where he, back in 2015, when you had the borders opened up by Angela Merkel, and they had the refugee crisis, as it's been called, what you ended up seeing was Viktor Orban stand up against that and say, our nation, our Hungarian people do not want all these refugees coming into our nation. And the European elite basically said, well, that's too bad. You have to take them. And Viktor Orban said, no, but my people have made the decision, let me cross here, that we don't want this. And their response was, well, again, that's too bad. You gave up that sovereignty when you signed the Amsterdam Treaty. And so this has been sort of the back and forth that's been going on among not just Hungary, but increasingly Italy, from the French right, Sweden that has the Sweden Democrats in a coalition government right now. Everywhere we're looking, Austria, everywhere we're looking, there is just this massive backlash against the way more and more sovereignty is being stolen from the local and national level. And it really is, when all's said and done, Alexander Dugin was talking about this, you just have these elites, these European elites who become radically anti-European. Our European elites have become radically anti-European. They want open borders. They want a global division of labor that deindustrializes their continent, and they want to recast their cultures, customs, and traditions as racist and bigoted and phobic and the like. And what it is doing is it is awakening something called civilizational populism. And we talk about that a lot on this channel, but civilizational populism, what's so important to get with it, is that the populist side of things redefines politics from a horizontal divide to a vertical divide. So when we tend to think of politics, we tend to think of a left versus right divide. But populists redefine that divide vertically as the people versus the political class. So that's the populism side of things. And you're certainly seeing that awaken in Europe. But you're seeing another side awaken as well, and that's the civilizational side, where the people see themselves as the faithful defenders of a culture's customs and traditions, as over and against a globalist elite whose globalism basically sells out the unique culture, custom, and tradition for their own financial gain and their own power. And so that's what you're seeing arise in the so-called far right in Europe. The far right is not far right. The far right in Europe, when all's said and done, is civilizational populism. It's the people rising up to defend their unique culture, customs, and traditions as over and against a globalist elite who have sold out those cultures, customs, and traditions for their own gain. And so that is basically the speech that you heard from J.D. Vance at the Munich Security Council. It was a civilizational populist speech to its core. And no one among the European elite would ever give a speech like that. In fact, they were incredibly insulted by it. It was so interesting. Somebody pointed out that J.D. Vance excoriated them, these leaders, for not accepting free speech. And then the next leader that got up to speak after him said that J.D. Vance's speech was unacceptable. So you have this strange sort of irony just permeating the entire Munich Security Council conference. So I think you're going to see more of this, especially with the German election coming up. That's basically what I think JD was doing, is he was trying to rouse the civilizational populist forces that are already awakening throughout Europe. He's trying to rouse them and mobilize them to new heights. The German elections could be very interesting because it looks like the AfD will clock in almost double what they clocked in their first national election when they broke into the Bundestag, the German parliament. They ended up with 13%, if I recall, back in 2017. I think that was Angela Merkel's last election before she resigned. Now it looks like they're going to get about 21, 22% support. That's pretty impressive stuff. In other words, the AFD is just growing in popularity. They're not shrinking, they're growing, almost doubling their national average, as it were, their national support from 2017. So what are we talking about? 7, 8 years ago. So I think that's what JD is doing. Oh, here we go. All right, I'm going to show you guys an amazing view here in a moment. You're going to absolutely love this. But I think that's what JD was doing. JD, when all's said and done, is trying to awaken the civilizational populism that's already exploding all throughout Europe. In his speech, he basically, in effect, said the Trump administration is now on the people's side and they are against the European elites. And the more the European elites continue to be anti-European, the more the Trump administration will call them out for being just that, for selling out the culture, customs, and traditions of the continent for their own, sorry, I got a car in front of me, for their own financial and political gain. All right, here we are. I told you I'd get you a really cool view. This is the southernmost part of the United States here. And I'm gonna flip this around and I'm gonna show you an amazing view. So this is what I'm seeing right now. And it's just awesome, very windy. But look at this. Absolutely beautiful. Havana is just, I don't even know, just a few miles from here, more or less, right? Is it 90 miles? Was it Diana Nyad who did the swim? She finally made it, right, between the United States and Cuba. But look at this. This is the southernmost part of the United States, unless we take Panama, of course. Kidding, just kidding. But look at that. Absolutely stunning stuff. Ooh, it's actually getting, the sun is out now, or sun is gone, I should say. Getting very, very cloudy. But this is amazing stuff. So there you go, gang, look at that. That's beautiful. You're all here with me. You're with me in spirit and in video. So, civilizational populism, gang. It is the politics of the future. And the future, as far as the bullies in Brussels and the Munich Security Council is concerned, the future has just come forward into time and has been realized in the present. God bless, gang.